to Tranquili-Tease. I'm your host Marina Mars, and today I'd like to disrupt the algorithm. But before we get there, please be sure to click the subscribe button followed by the little bell for notifications if you're hanging out on YouTube, or go ahead and click follow if you're tuning in from any podcast streaming site. That way we can ensure that you get the content you need when you need it. So what do I mean by disrupting the algorithm? Normally, I write scripts for every episode. Normally, I have everything very well thought out. Normally, I have themes going on. What's the difference with today? Well, I just finished wrapping up a massive chunk of topics that I always wanted to address that had to do specifically with mindfulness. And it's not to say that what's going to come next isn't about mindfulness, but it's more so that I'm changing the way I think about how I want to do this podcast, how I want to relate to you, and kind of the message that I'm trying to send. I noticed that, a lot of the way that I was talking before, I relied on my script, and it wasn't because I was like, I didn't know what I wanted to say, but it was more so that I had spent hours and hours writing each and every one. It would be to the point where I'd be writing a 4-page college essay, with all of these citations and all this shit, and I'm like, no one's even reading this paper, right? Like, the reason I went into podcasting specifically and not blogging is because no one fucking reads anymore. And if they do, it was very hard for me to be able to ensure that the tone, my personality, and all these things were coming together, right? And so I stuck to a script. I stuck to something that was it started compounding on itself, right? So it started with a script. And then I had taken some courses from fellow, influencers and online entrepreneurs on how they would, deal with the algorithm. So especially on YouTube, right? So keyword searching is extremely important. So I spent hours understanding keywords and SEO research and how to get ranked high. How do I choose what to talk about? Oh, well, what do people want to hear about? What are people already talking about, right? So it's this basically analyzation into human behavior to decide what I wanted to talk about, as if I couldn't just come up with my own topics and trains of thought like completely by myself. And I'm not saying that I couldn't literally do that. I'm just saying if I did that, my message may not have come out the way I wanted it to. It wouldn't have gone as far, right? I could have said and made the most incredible thing, but the internet's gonna fucking censor me. Why? Because I didn't use the right keywords. Or when we move over to Instagram's case, it's a whole nother bucket of fucking worms. I'm sitting here in my underwear right now, and if you are on YouTube, you can see that. I am not the kind of person who is going to be everybody's cup of tea. I apparently don't follow a lot of community guidelines because I don't hate my body. Even though I'm not flashing anyone, I'm not doing anything that goes against any sort of guideline of consent. It's been so frustrating. I've been basically trying to be as honest with my art as possible, while also knowing that I have to say certain things in a certain way or select certain topics because, that's what the world wants and needs. And that's good, because I made this podcast for you in the sense that you, the listener, I want to make your life better. I want to pass along anything that I know that I learned the hard way so that you don't have to. I look at this podcast as kind of like talking to my younger self, or not even just younger, more the version of me that didn't get to the lesson yet, or the version of me that needs to hear the lesson again, because we all need to learn something a couple times, right? Point of this rant, where is this going? I want to change that a little bit, and the next few episodes are going to get a little bit more intense in terms of the way in which I want to present the information. This was really inspired by, very coincidentally, someone that I learned a lot of my YouTube keyword SEO type stuff from this beautiful woman named Sunny Lenarduzzi, and she's totally tagged in the description of this episode, so you can totally check her content out. She's so smart, she's so brilliant. She has been doing media and marketing and basically client reach, getting your message to the person that you want to get it to for a very long time, so she's very knowledgeable. But recently, over the summer, she's made a massive shift. And she said this awesome thing. So to quote her, she said, "Use your attention as a weapon for good. Next to money, attention has become our greatest currency." Which this is something, obviously, I just talked about in my collaboration and network of life episode. So I wholeheartedly agree with this. But the thing that really made that drive home and really made me realize, oh, I'm not fully walking the walk as much as I could, is when she had mentioned a really awesome Brene Brown quote, which is this: "You either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside of your story and hustle for your worthiness." Look, I've been sitting here since January 1st, doing nothing but telling my story and trying to live it, right? But yet, it still feels like I've been standing outside of my story and hustling for worthiness because I feel stuck. I'm following all the fucking rules of the algorithm, but yet it's still not paying off in the sense that I'm still getting, messages saying that, hey, like from the platforms themselves, like, this content can't be pushed because it's, it doesn't follow community guidelines, or what I'm talking about is too niche. It's not, or they'll put me in the big categories that society and culture, like, so buried, like, clearly who does the algorithm work for? Is basically what I'm trying to say here. I've been hustling to be able to be involved and be included in this thing that doesn't even like me to begin with. Why? Look at the kind of woman I am. In that episode that I talked about, of the Tranquili-Tease of creative collaboration in the network of life, I talked about rewiring our brains to think about success and richness within the currency of energy, instead of, within that paradigm of debt that we technically owe the Federal Reserve, right? AKA money. I believe that the best way to really, really embody this thing that, want to be rich, you want to embody this richness, but yet I was still measuring my hustle in digits. How does that fucking make sense? That doesn't make sense. I really hope that my transparency with you in this does not backfire, and that you understand where I'm coming from. So here are kind of the three things that I want to start to address personally, as well as, in upcoming episodes as well. Point number one, to begin, when we think about what we're posting, how intentional are you being? Right? How often do you ask yourself, does this post positively contribute to my goal or my purpose or my focal point? Or, like, why else am I posting this? What is the intention behind it? For example, I had a friend tell me that, one time she had a friend who would post things, and she was very, very popular online, right? Already popular. But then she specifically went in her IG stories and was like, I'm going to start posting more content with my butt so I can get more followers. And then what did this do to my friend? It hurt her head, and it made her feel weird about people in general who post with their booties out. Why do I personally post my booty out? It's not about followers. It's because I love my booty, and it's part of my art, right? So, but now my friend has had this prejudice against people posting with their booties out. This immediate thought programmed in her brain that was like, oh, well, she's just using her body to get more attention. Excuse that moment of silence, but I think it's important that we're more intentional about what we post, because sure, maybe that's your goal and that's great. If you want to post your booty to get more followers, cool, awesome. That's fucking amazing. Good for you. Go for it. Because, you know, we live in a society where people want to, you know, try to tell us how we can live our lives. So the first and best way, in my opinion, as a woman, if you love yourself, to try to take ownership back of that is, you know, to be able to monetize that. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But what is wrong? Like, is that really what she wanted to tell her followers? Is that what she wanted to tell her audience? Hey, I'm not getting enough of what I want, so I'm going to do something for no other purpose, just for some more heart points. What? Number 2, the second thing I want to kind of call more attention to. Take a look at who you follow, right, on all of your social medias. Do you agree with every single person you surround yourself with? If so, recognize that you're kind of existing in an echo chamber, right? And this is going to contribute to the polarization of non-elite classes that battle each other, right? Like, this, that was a mouthful. What I mean by that is, like, if these non-elite classes are just constantly fighting each other, right? The best example I can think of is back when McDonald's employees got this big raise, right? The minimum wage hadn't gone up, but McDonald's was like, we're going to start paying people better. And then there's this article that was written by an EMT, like, fuck those people at, like, you know, at McDonald's. Why do they get paid more than me? Like, I save lives, blah, 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 blah. When in reality, it's like, yeah, homeboy who's working at McDonald's totally deserves that raise, and EMT, motherfucker, you do too. Like, you are fighting the wrong people. You need to look up in the hierarchy and see up there, like, the rich are just getting richer, so why are we tearing each other apart, right? They're profiting off of our anger. You are significantly closer to being homeless than you will ever be to being a billionaire. That's just a fact. So maybe have some class solidarity, stop fucking glorifying your oppressors, and stop living in a goddamn echo chamber. Kind of maybe consider following people that have different viewpoints to you. And on top of that, maybe stop following people who, again, are just chasing those heart points, the vanity points, who just make you feel bad because it looks like they're living this perfect life of whateverness, but are they giving you any actual substance or any motivation? Again, what's the point in that? That insecurity is just going to make you go to the store and buy more things, but hate the girl who posted it. The fuck? Disrupt the algorithm, please. I hate that. I hate living in a world where that's a reality. And my third thing, my third point, tip, whatever, clearly I stopped caring in this episode. I get that a lot of us rely on positive social media stats to run our businesses and sell our art or connect with people, especially if you're an influencer. Basically, the formula, if you will, is the amount of followers you have is one number. Then your other number is the amounts of likes and comments you get on a single post. And then you're going to do some division. So for example, if I get 300 likes and comments on a post and I have 3,000 followers, that means I've got a 10% engagement rate. Boom, done, right? So a lot of people look at like, oh, well, this art wasn't good enough, or this post wasn't good enough, or this thing wasn't good enough because I didn't get enough heart points, therefore I won't get my paycheck. So now we've monetized that in an even grosser way. And it gets us even more stuck in these boxes where we're not allowed to exist outside the algorithm. Otherwise, hi, hello, you've got people like me trying to put their heart and soul on the internet, trying to help people, trying to genuinely like have some sort of interaction in the middle of this quarantine, and yet I'm being quarantined online. And in fact, I've been quarantined online ever since I fucking started. This episode has no delightful wrap up, other than I have 2 future episodes that I have planned in the next 2 weeks. So the one that's coming next week is called Stop Coping Already and Break Down. And the second one is going to talk about the shadows of show business. So especially that second episode is probably going to be very long and full of lots of tears. Who knows? Lots of things. Point of the story is, I think in order to really work on the shadows that I've been talking about, right? I've been giving you like, oh, here's some cognitive behavioral therapy. Here's what love, beauty, and pleasure is. You know, here's how you attract healthy love. Here's how you love yourself while dancing naked. Like, you know, here's how you have a healthy, balanced diet, you know, of all senses. Here's how you collaborate and make the world a better place. Blech. Cool. But that's all theory until you put in the work. You know, I did put in work in terms of putting in personal examples, but what I'm saying is I want to do that more with my podcast itself. So we're going to talk about some spicy topics. We're going to talk about some, you know, spicy feelings. And I hope that this message makes sense and it's treating you well. Please tell me about your experience with social media and the algorithm and how fucking fed up with it you are. If you feel similar to me, I want to hear all about it. Please head on down to the YouTube comment section and tell me all about it, and please do not be shy. On a final note, if you haven't already signed up for my newsletter, the Martian Gazette, I highly recommend it because it is a free sporadic dose of love, beauty, and pleasure. For more information, just go ahead and check out the description if you're here on YouTube, or head over to marinamars.com for more information. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, lovelies. Until next time, XOXO.